Right then, so today's Friday fix is all about getting the ball in the hole as quick as possible once you're around the greens. But we're going to talk about whether you should be chipping with your 7-iron or your sand wedge. So then, Friday fix powered by Players Fuel as ever. Like I said, today is all about getting the ball in the hole as quick as possible. Hopefully chipping in, but very often golfers like chipping with wedges because they see a lot of the guys and girls on tour do it. But a lot of the time, the friends will say, maybe you should be playing that with a 7-iron. So I'm going to talk you through how you play the shots with both clubs. Then I'm going to show you some different situations, hit each club, and we're going to see which one works best and help you decide which one of those you should be using. So by the end of today's video, I want you to be really comfortable in your head as to when you might use either of these clubs, but you also might find, even not the ideal situation, you would favour one of these over the other. Now I'm going to work through just the basic technique to begin with, which is exactly the same for both clubs, but I'm going to talk you through and play a shot with each. Then I'm going to move around the green. I'm at the 18th here at Heron's Reach and show you somewhere you'd think wedge would be great, but maybe 7-iron will work, and vice versa. So I'm going to start with the wedge. So we're basically going to put the golf ball in the middle of our stance. I tend to chip with my feet nice and close together just because it's more of a finesse shot for me. But once the ball's in the middle of the stance, I want to move my sternum slightly forward just to keep the pressure over my left foot. That's going to get my low point just slightly ahead of the golf ball. I'm not really somebody who likes chipping with lots of shaft lean, because it tends to get the leading edge of the club just digging into the ground a little bit too much. But once I've got that weight on that left side, I'm going to try and get the shaft back pretty much where I was at address, and the length of the swing is just dictating how far I want to hit the golf ball. And obviously with the wedge, the ball's going to go a little bit higher and not run quite as much. So then we go into the 7-iron. Exactly the same setup. Didn't actually mention there that what I'll also do is just move a little bit closer and get the handle a little bit higher and just put the grip a little bit more up into my palm, more like I would hold a putter. But again, we're going to set up ball right in the middle, a little closer, that tiny bit of shaft lean, sternum forward, and then just almost like a little putting stroke. And that one's going to go a lot lower and then potentially run a lot more. So like I said, now we're going to move around the green. Some way you'd think wedge might be the option, but I'm going to talk you through why sometimes the 7-iron might be a much better option. Maybe I'm not getting stone deader in the hole, but just giving yourself a chance for a putt. Right, so I'm going to start front edge of the green. I mean, perfect line, nothing to go over. Sand wedge here, higher, less run. Probably going to need to land this around halfway. Probably going to kick a little left and then just roll a little bit. Played that pretty well, but just didn't break quite as much as I wanted. But this is definitely the shot for me with the perfect lie and just lots of green to play with. I'm probably always looking to get the ball landing on the green and then rolling more like a putt. And that one feeding round really nicely and just finishing a little bit closer than the sand wedge. But that just feels such a safe shot, like I could really get away with a poor strike with that as well. Right, so now we'll come to the right hand side of the green. So a bit more long grass to get over, probably 4 or 5 yards of long grass, a little bit of fringe and then onto the green. Now, definitely for me, my thought process is normally that I want to try and land the ball on the green, or at least a flat part of ground where I know the ball's going to land. So in theory, for this particular shot, this is where the sand wedge could work great. That's all the way down there. And yeah, absolutely take that. But I do think a lot of golfers maybe just struggle with that bit of confidence and maybe aren't all that confident with strike. So even though I'm going to have to land my 7-iron in the longer grass, because it's got a nice low trajectory and lots of momentum, this should still get on the green, just might be a little bit more tricky to get it as close. We can see there, that first bounce absolutely killed it, but there would be the worry that if you go with sand wedge and maybe hit the ground a little bit early, that the ball could end up a foot in front of you. So even though, definitely on that shot, sand wedge gave me the great result, I think anyone who struggles with their confidence and technique, 7-iron still got me on the green and gave me a chance to hold my putt. Right, so next shot, just off the edge of the green, but not really got to fly it over a lot of ground, but lots of green to play with, but a very, very fluffy lie, lots of grass around the golf ball. Now for me, this would make me think this is going to be a little harder to strike. So with the sand wedge, I'm going to have lots of speed to make sure it gets through the grass. And there's an element of hit and hope with this, that if the grass gets in the way, this could just pop up and not go very far. It's actually come out really quickly. Actually done quite well, got about 4 foot away. But this is possibly the one for me where when that ball sat down, I definitely know the 7-iron's getting this going forward. So I would hope here that a bit more predictable how the ball comes out. I landed it a little bit far, but we can see for me at the moment, sand wedge definitely coming out on top, which might be a bit of a surprise because I'll be honest, some of these shots I'd definitely be leaning more towards 7-iron. Right, so we've looked at a few different shots. Now I'm going to talk about how you might choose to play that shot. So I spoke about obviously picking, where you want to land the ball, let it roll around. That's great. If you're confident that you can strike the ball. Now the little challenge with sand wedge is when you get over the golf ball and make your swing, if that strikes good, the ball will generally finish pretty well if you've judged the right landing point. But the negatives can be that if you're a little bit nervy, it's quite easy to thin it, and then obviously that big swing, that ball was still accelerating when it went past the hole. Or the other one is that one where you just catch the ground a little early and the ball goes nowhere. So if you look at the difference between the good ones and the bad ones with sand wedge there, if you're somebody who just struggles a little bit with chipping, you might not use that one. Whereas the beauty with the 7-iron is that good strike, we know that gets on the green. That's a little bit hard, but fed round pretty well. That one where you just catch it a little bit thin, because the ball's only going to go a little bit lower, it's only going to run a little bit more. And might still end up absolutely fantastic. Go in. But equally, that one where you catch the ground a little bit early, because there's forward momentum and a low trajectory, that still might end up closer than some of those ones that you've struck well and misjudged with the sand wedge. So I think the key is you need to decide what you're like confidence-wise. Have a look at the situation and decide which one you really want to play and then commit. But if you struggle with a bit of confidence, might look to use 7-iron a bit more than sand wedge. Right then guys, so that's another Friday fix. As ever, powered by Players Fuel. But we can see there, should you be chipping with sand wedge or 7-iron? Like I said, I think it really depends on how confident you are, the situation, but it might be worth just in the odd game saying, right, I'm going to play all my chips with sand wedge. And the next game I'll play all my chips with 7-iron. See which works best, and then whichever works best, stick with that one. But make sure you practice with the other one to make sure you get good, so you're not limited to the shots you have to play. So guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, like it and share it, comment below and I'll get back to as many people as I can. There's another video just there that I think you'll enjoy, hopefully help with your game. Catch up with some of you guys down here soon. Stay in contact.